Hey y'all, how's it going? I'm trading the ES futures on a 2000 tick chart with a 21 EMA. So I've got the overnight high up here and the overnight low down here. These are our key levels for the day. And so starting off, I'm going to delete that for now. So starting off, we have this downtrend break, a couple attempts at a new low, and then we push above the EMA, get this higher low. We have a second leg up. And so we have these clear two legs trying to reverse from this downtrend. As soon as the downtrend played out with a break and two attempts at a new low, we immediately get two attempts to reverse right here. And so after two legs up like that, it's not surprising to see two legs down, because two legs up is basically a trend playing out, because you can view it as this uptrend break and then first attempt higher, second attempt higher. And so on a bigger picture, those two attempts right there becomes one leg. Clearly, you can see the two legs right there. And then as even more time goes on, it gets even bigger picture. That eventually becomes one leg, and then you can measure it to there. But anyway, so we attempt to reverse back down here. We get this first entry long, second entry long, and there's no reason to go long right here because, I mean, this trend line isn't there at the time, of course. I got this after it pushed up there. So the reason I like this right here is we have this downtrend, break, first attempt lower, second attempt lower, failure. And after you push up right there, that's when you can get this trend line. But after it starts pushing up right there, that's when it's really clear. So before this bar closes, it's pretty clear that you have this trend line here. You can just draw it off those swings. It fits right off those highs. Notice right off that wick, off that body, and then the wick again. And so I like that right here because you have this bearish measured move in play, and price is attempting to reach it, but it's failing and shooting back above the EMA. Once again, downtrend, break, first attempt lower, second attempt lower, failure. And you want to enter on the second attempt failures. So it's a failure for that. It's holding on this larger structure. And considering that we have two pushes higher there and then it's attempting to reverse with two legs back down, you know that you could easily, that this is going to become larger picture at some point as more price action goes on. And when it'll become larger picture after the attempt to reverse from it plays out. And so after those two legs up, you already have two clear legs down with an extra attempt failing. So you can expect a larger picture leg right there. You can expect that to become one leg, and then it's holding on a larger structure, so you can expect a second leg. So I do like this area right here. It was getting a bit choppy, so I didn't push my target too far. I just did 1-to-1. But because it seemed to be getting a bit kind of sideways-ish, but I wasn't too concerned about it because it wasn't consistent off the lows. But anyway, we push on up there. So now notice how we get this larger right here. It does blast right through that measured move, but notice where it retests. It retests right on that measured move. So these are important. You do need to draw these. You got to get used to spotting them as fast as you can. And so anyway, we have we reach the overnight high at this point, or we nearly reach it, and then we get a first entry long, which it's just a first entry, so of course you don't want to take it. And then here we push up, we retest that overnight high, we start getting very choppy around it. Unfortunately, there's no clear setups in this whole chop right here. So when you push out of these highs, you can look for a short. You just need room to any support, but you also need to make sure you don't enter into this trend line right here, because you are in an uptrend. You can enter short after an overshoot like that, because overshoots do lead to breaks. They often lead to very swift breaks, but that doesn't take away from the fact that, you know, the EMA is up. It is still technically an uptrend, so just don't enter into anything you wouldn't usually, and then I wouldn't push it past 1-to-1. And so unfortunately we don't get any setups here. We break out, we fade back in. If we could have gotten two clear legs up, maybe we could have gotten something, but it's really just a first entry, and then there's no good signal bars that are off of any support. We have a good signal bar there. It's clearly, you know, it's right after that sharp move higher there. I just want some more separation, but unfortunately we don't get that. We just break out. So now we have uptrend, break, and then about this trade right here. So uptrend, break, first attempt higher, second attempt higher, failure, which I did get stopped out on that right there. So we just made basically like a triple test off the overnight highs, and this uptrend, break, a couple attempts at a new high. But I did make a mistake here. So even though it was on that second attempt at a new high failing, I should have considered these lows that were forming. So say I had this right off that wick, and then I had it right here, and it's clearly started reacting off of it pretty well right there. Now, so whether you had it here, which, you know, I really think it should be more like or sorry, I accidentally opened the menu. There we go. So I think it should be more like up here, because clearly it was reacting off it there, and it was reacting off of it again right there. So if it was all the way up here, you can tell that it's breaking out and it's like retesting. But when you have two breakouts to the same area and it's finding resistance, that's likely where the support is. And so I was seeing how it fits down here, but leaving this one in, I do think it's probably more accurate there. So the problem here is we have lows forming, and whether it's here or whether it's here, it doesn't really matter. We just bounced off these lows right here and only had one attempt to reverse. So this is a key level. This is a key entry point. And so when it bounces off of it, it's range rules. When you bounce off one side, you can expect price to reach the other side, and you want to wait for 2 attempts before you enter back in that same direction. And so we only had one attempt to push higher here. I should have waited on a second attempt. So notice what happens right when it makes that second attempt. So we have that first attempt to reverse higher there and second attempt since coming off these lows. And I understand that there's other stuff in play, like the uptrend break and then a couple attempts at a new high, but we can't just ignore the range rules, which is basically what I did right there. And it had that first attempt to reverse, it pushed lower, and then it pushed back up, second attempt. That's where I got stopped out, and then it went right where I thought. But at this point right here, I just didn't have the range lows correctly. It was more like that. I just wasn't quite focused enough. And so if I had known that the range lows were more like this or possibly like this, but I think they're more like this because of that, just 3 bounces, and it's still clearly reacting. I should not have been entering directly into lows first off, but once again, there's only one attempt to reverse off those lows, not 2. So that's basically just like a first entry right there. Not allowing the range rules to attempt to play out first. So anyway, on that second attempt up, I got stopped out, and then it went right where I thought it would. But even if I did get 2 attempts, this area is not good. It's just right into those lows. You do not want to enter like that. So that was my mistake. I was viewing it as like a bigger picture, failed second entry right there, and also the couple attempts higher. But there's just too many things wrong with it, obviously. So anyway, we push on down here. We get this possible channel here. It overshoots, immediately leads to a break. And then this would have been a good area for a big picture failed second entry, like a first entry long, second entry long failure, but we don't get that, unfortunately. We just bounce off the EMA, and then we hold above, so you don't want to enter short right there. It's not off of any kind of resistance, and it's right into the EMA right after holding on the EMA, which is not good. And so anyway, we push on down here. So now we have this first leg down, break, and we're starting to get a second leg down. We can look for shorts to complete this measured move down, but by the time we start correcting here, it is just completely sideways. There is no way that I'm going to enter in something like that. And so we continue down. We start getting very choppy right here again. We push up, push back down. So now we have these, down, up, down, clearly a larger structure forming. We have a range forming. EMA is going flat. Now notice here, we have this very large measured move in play, and we have these clear 2 legs back, and we're pushing below a clear resistance point. We have 1, 2, and then 3 right there. It's clear resistance right there. Measured move is met with a very much larger bearish measured move in play. This is definitely a good area to look for a short, and so when you have that measured move met and then you just rush below the EMA, I did not like this at first because it clearly rejected the high right there, and it's not a very, it could have closed more bearish, and it didn't, and it's also clear that it didn't close good as a result of it rejecting the high right there. So I did not like that. I wanted something to actually close below. And so then here we close below the highs and the EMA. Very strong bar, very bearish bar. I ended up entering after this right here. I still took it even after this bar formed right here. I went in 1 tick early because I didn't like pushing it out too far. But this is a very big picture setup here. It's not quite a big picture failed second entry because notice how we have first entry long, second entry long. I feel like it's right there, the big picture failed second entry, but this is, it's a similar looking pattern to a very big picture failed second entry, and it's right at that measured move. So there's a bunch of good things about this. Just to ride it to the other side of the range, it's pushing it out a little bit, but once again, it's so big picture, I don't care about pushing it out an extra few ticks than I normally would from that support. And so, plus I went in with the limit order, like I said. So anyway, we push on lower here. That's why I like that trade. We push on lower. I was, thinking maybe we can get some kind of long down here, but we just have this sharp push down. If we could have gotten like a break and then a couple attempts lower, we could have possibly gotten a long if we had room to the EMA, but we don't get anything. So we push on up here. This would have been a good place for a neat reversal pattern, a failed second entry. But we push above, we push back below, and then we get this, to the tick, it's a failed second entry. To me, that just looks like a higher low. I just see this, higher low. That's, notice how there's a tick lower there, and there's a clear, very clear swing lower there. So I just see that as a big picture higher low that rushed below the EMA and could not close above. So to me, there's no reason to enter long there. So I don't like that. Looks like you would have won though for 1-1. We push back down. Now here, it's getting choppy. It's getting sideways in this area here. But this area, I would look for a smaller picture reversal pattern back down. Nothing really clear sets up. And I also don't like how by the time you get this lower high right here, it rushed above with a completely bullish bar, and then it did get back below, but it's not a very good bearish bar. So I don't like going short on that. Plus, it's just into this, resistance that's forming. So anyway, we push on lower here. We break out again. At this point, I have this larger downtrend drawn. Which let me get these lows drawn. There's only one off the low for now on that, but it could get bigger up here, and then let's just see really quick. So as it expands, it could possibly get good lows, but anyway, so where was I? That's right here, was I? Anyway, so we break out again. Once again, this is another area where we could get a good reversal pattern, but at this time here, this downtrend line would be right here, so you don't want to enter into that because it could easily just bounce right off of it. But I do think that if you get a good reversal pattern, you can get a good 1-to-1 long with room to these highs up here. And so anyway, we bounce right off of that, and there's not a whole lot of room to the overnight low at this point, but I'm just saying, if you could have gotten a good failed second entry that has room, then that is a good area. I would have liked that right there. It's a clear, if it's bouncing a third time right there, it's very clear that there's some bearishness in play, some bearish trend line. And so if you can get a failed second entry with room to the overnight low, then that'd be good. But as it starts to push lower here, there's not a whole lot of room for that, and then it just never ends up even happening. And so, anyway, we break out of that. We retest again. We just bounce back up. No clear entries once again. We start getting a little bit choppy here. We could be going into this right here, so we'll see how this holds. But, anyway, so, yeah, that's going to do it for this video. Hope it helped out in some way, and thanks for watching. See you all next time.